Everyone, how's it going? Hope you're all doing well. Second short season versus part 18. Today we've got Hebrews 9:26 through to 28. Hebrews 9:26. For then must he often have suffered since the foundation of the world, but now once in the end of the world hath he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. And as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this the judgment. So Christ was once offered to bear the sins of many, and unto them that look for him shall he appear the second time without sin unto salvation. So we're talking about Jesus, the Lamb slain before the foundation. That suggests that God's plan existed before he even created the world. Christ comes once to die for sins, and then the second time he comes is for salvation. Everyone who believes in Christ is looking for him. When this were wrote, they'll have been looking for him, but there's nothing in these verses to suggest that Christ returned in 70 AD and we're now living in Satan's short season. It's just not there in these verses. So with that aside, I'm going to address this comment. You all know Ben Taboo conspiracy. Give me these verses. This isn't an attack on Ben. I said that at the beginning. I'm just addressing his verses. Like, I'm allowed to do that. But he's left this comment and it's really naughty. Really, really naughty. And just totally suggests where these people are and their understanding on scriptures, So the Bible's clear and unmistakable words somehow mean something entirely different is where you'll land in trouble. I'm not going to bother reading the rest of it because that's just, doesn't have any bearing on how. But clear and unmistakable words. So the point I've been trying to get across is this was wrote in Greek, right? And it's translated to English. So, like the point I was showing you with the word generations, it's clear cut in English. And it seems to me that you, Ben, and other people who are falling for this heresy, and it is an heresy, are just taking English words on face value. And you just can't do that. Not when it comes down to something so important like whether Christ returned or not. You're just going to take them words, English words. You're not going to look at Greek and what they mean. So I'm going to use this verse just to prove my point, but just look at this. Not researching the New Testament in its original language as Greek, primarily, can lead to misinterpretations and a loss of nuance in understanding the text. Translations, while aiming for accuracy, can sometimes obscure the original author's intent, subtle wordplay, or cultural context. That's why we have, Hebrew and Greek dictionaries, Hebrew and Greek lexicons, Strong's concordance. That's why we have these things. So, if we look at this part here, but now once in the end of the world hath he appeared to put away sin. If we look at it in Greek, so Hebrews 9:26, I'll read it all. Since then it was necessary for him often to have suffered from the foundation of the world. Yeah, we've got that one there. For then he often have suffered since the foundation of the world. Yeah, cool. But now, once at the end of the ages. But in English, it says world. In Greek, it says ages. For the annulling of sin through the sacrifice of himself, he has been revealed. So, the interpretation when you read it in Greek is the ages. What ages? Well, when Christ came the second time to die for sin, that marked the end of an age. It marked the end of the old covenant, the sacrifices. Jesus was the last sacrifice for all sin. Yeah, that's what this verse means. So your comment to me, Ben, shows some clear ignorance or dishonesty. I'm sorry, but telling me that I'm changing words when they're clear what they mean. How are they clear what they mean in English? They're only clear what they mean when you study it in Greek. How am I the one who's at fault? So there's no Satan's short season in these verses, and a lot of verses that you use to push Satan's short season don't really mean what you think they mean either, because you've not studied what they mean in Greek. Just using English, it's just not going to cut it. And I beg anybody who reads the Bible, if you don't understand it, start looking into Greek or Hebrew. You don't have to be fluent in Greek or Hebrew, but like I said, there's lexicons, there's concordances. There's all over 1,000 years of church history where people have been discussing these things. We're going to throw that all in the bin, and we're just going to listen to a few people who can't interpret the Bible correctly and say Christ returned. Why do you think Satan wants you to think Christ already returned? Because Christ's constantly telling you, look for the signs, look for the signs. If you think it's all done, you're not looking for now. That's what Satan wants. He wants people's eyes off the ball. If you think tribulation's happened, and then you go through tribulation, what effect does that have on your faith? People just aren't. I don't know what's going off with this Satan short season, but it's really, really bad. It's a bad teaching. It's not scriptural. There's no scriptural backing for it, and there's no history for it either. The crazy things I've heard people saying, but that's for another video. Today's verses addressed. Ben's comment addressed. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you up next one.